a lot, guy. Well, good afternoon. I have a lot to cover, and I'm really excited about doing it. But I think I'm going to have to lead into it this way. I have a screenshot of my website, and it's been up, like I said, for quite a while. And it's a collaborative effort. My wife, my brother, they've all thrown themselves into this wholeheartedly for quite a number of years because they feel very strongly about the topic. And the topic, you can kind of see here, the screen still that I have from the site, has to do with the occult nature of UFOs. And I tried to set the site up so that it would be a compendium of information for the people who, if they were surfing and they had a question about ufology, they might be able to find some information that wouldn't be just purely secular or slanted towards one religious idea or another. And the way I thought it might work best then, and I think it's almost divine providence, was to come up with a word that seemed to have a double meaning. And that word is watcher. That's why the site's named the Watcher website. Number one, I was trying to draw in the ufologist who is an aficionado who understands that the abductee has been hearing these abductors tell them that their names are the Watchers. And very early on, I think in the 70s, that fact had come out. And that was intensely interesting to me. It was fascinating because I have a background in theology. I immediately recognized that that word was very integral to the cosmology and the theocracy of the early civilizations, not just the Semitic civilization, not just the Hebrew civilization. We're talking about the Greeks, we're talking about the Sumerians, we're talking about almost everything in the Middle East that you can think. They have an idea that there was an interaction between heavenly beings from a very, very distant part of antiquity, and that those heavenly beings had a very forceful role in events later on in history. The other side of this explanation for the name for the site is that as a Christian, we're told to watch for the second advent of the Messiah. Well, that's just a real basic tenet of Christianity, that the Messiah came already and he'll come again. And around this understanding that the Messiah comes again is a whole body of study, eschatology, the science of things that will be, that outline what world events will be taking place. Now, this Bible prophecy, this scripture prophecy, talks about a recapitulation, repetition of what happened, especially in antediluvial times. The word that's used talks about the time before Noah. And there's a lot of speculation about what time that was. However, on my site, we talk about these things, and we have secular viewpoints, we have theological viewpoints that cover hundreds of years of research. But I think the name Watcher is very integral to this whole point, this whole lecture that I'm going to give you, because if we understand who the Watchers are as they themselves explain, both in the past and now in the present, we'll get a very clear view of what the UFO phenomena is, a glimpse into even Siriology, the study of crop circles, and most especially the connection between Mars and Earth, and whether or not there are artificial structures on Mars, like Richard Hogan contends, and I think he does so with a lot of merit. So, here we go. I'd like to direct you to this little guy right down here. He's a classic alien gray. My brother actually drew this picture and copied it later on after he was inspired through a talk we had about Philip Corso's book, The Day After Roswell. And the whole idea was that in his book he said that the Roswell crash did happen. Our Air Force did recover pieces of this craft, and that they were quickly classified, and then later he came across documents that detailed how all these parts were put back into the private sector of our economic infrastructure, so that they could be back engineered and then put into technology that we're using today, like this, like my computer, integrated circuitry, and that sort of thing. So you can see in the hand of this little alien gray, who I have to keep reminding myself is a watcher also, he has a tetrahedron, and that was a little later. We put this in about 1997. It was a link to go to my brother's encryption privacy shareware, which was something he had developed on his own. It was just an encrypt email so no one could read them, and it was actually a pretty good privacy shareware that he had set up, but it was kind of a tongue-in-cheek sort of ploy to put in an alien purveying this type of technology. And the tetrahedron connects to Richard Holden's work with the angles that are measured in the Cydonia site on Mars, these intelligent angles, these designs that seem to repeat a tetrahedral geometry. And a tetrahedral geometry, of course, the first of the Platonic solids, which this alien is holding, is indicative of that idea. And this is a close-up view of it. Here, this is the original picture. He was holding an integrated circuit, which I think is the focus of where this technology, what we were talking about with the Philip Corso book, where it came from. It seems to have been miraculously developed. And the more my brother talked about just how intricate these sort of things were, how the chemical makeup of this chip seemed to be so random that it really did make a lot of sense. It sounds fringe and loony, but we were still doing this kind of as a ruse. And this is 1996. This is a crop glyph. You can see calling them crop circles because it's clearly not a circular structure except for the thing that this alien's holding. But it appeared in 2002, August 14th, outside of Winchester, England. And the photographer, Lucy Pringle, had also interviewed some folks who lived near this strange feature that showed up in a wheat field right around harvest time. And they had witnessed lights swirling around and then zooming into the sky, and also strange pulsing noises that they assumed were a generator or maybe a helicopter. But this feature is huge. It's about 390 feet tall by 240 feet wide. And the circular feature that this alien gray is holding, this watcher is holding, is about 100 feet across. You can see the tractor lines here, the little roadway, and you can get some idea of the scale. What's amazing about this feature is its similarity to the Ultratech symbol that my brother had put up on my site. I thought it was significant, although I had the reservations, because I want to keep a mind that isn't delusional. And I decided that maybe I would put it aside and wait till some inspiration hit me if it actually did have some merit with my research. Although now I'm finding that it does, and it surely did. Here's some folks walking around in the disk, as you can see here. This thing, they're walking around and studying it. And it actually has some remarkable features. It was actually a readable code in the disk. It was called ASCII text. And that just stands for American Standard Code for Information Interchange. It's an American code developed in the late 60s. What happens with this code is it's a system of binary, 8 digits, zeros or ones, which make one symbol, and it's all correlated to a keyboard for a computer. So if you type A, it'll be 001110, something like that. It depends on what the letter is.